Hey guys, welcome back. Joe here again from ScaleFreak.com, coming to bring you Bag F of the Axial Racing SCX10 2 build. This thing, so far, you can see I've done the axles, I've done the transmission, I've done the shocks. Now we're getting into important little bits like the battery tray. So this is what we're going to talk about right now. In Bag F, we're going to go through actually a lot of steps on this one. We're talking about the battery tray. We're starting to put stuff together with the chassis. We're really starting to make a bunch of parts into a truck. Who'd have thought it, right? So one of the neat things with this new battery tray is it is a little bit different. It's not like a lay down front or back battery tray. This thing is actually kind of putting the battery up on edge. So, if you got a 2-cell battery, pops in like that. If you got a 3-cell battery, it pops in like that. The instructions say this thing can take up to 147 millimeters long, 32 millimeters tall, or 60 millimeters wide. And what's really neat is you see these little guys here are little spacers that you can screw into the bottom so that you can actually adjust it for your size and figure out exactly how big the battery is and get it to stay put, lock it down like this, or just make sure it's not bobbling around. And of course, you do get the wonderful Velcro strap. Just one is all you need to strap that sucker down. Don't need to spend very much time on that, though. I'm not going to go through all of that. It's in the instructions. It's super easy to do. See? Super easy to do. It's really easy. But that battery tray has got to get locked down to a chassis somehow, right? So there are a couple parts that you have to start going through and getting them locked into the kit. So what's really neat, though, is all of this stuff here is all built to attach to the side of the frame rails, which is cool. You can always tell this stuff because it'll have little leader holes or kind of arched because, this is arched. So you can kind of take a look at that and go, oh, how convenient. That looks like it fits, I don't know, right there. So but we'll get to that guy in a second. First thing we're going to do is lock all these parts in, though. So again, a lot of screws in this bag, like a lot of screws. And as you're going through, you need to count them out and make sure you get the right ones. I've also mentioned before that these are pretty scale. So if you go like this and go, oh, that looks like the screw it's supposed to be, damn good chance that's the one it is. So 1, 2, we got number 3 and number 4 for this one. Now, here's something I do want to make mention about. This thing doesn't have plastic screws. The big, huge, coarse thread plastic screws. They're not in this kit. There are none of them, not even a single one, which by my standards is awesome. So thank you guys for not putting them in there. Basically what I mean by that is if you built a previous model of this kit before, you knew that the plastic screws were aplenty, and when you put them in, they may strip out. You never know. But with this one here, you'll find that this is actually a significant amount of very well-made machine screws and very quality plastic that is going to keep you from stripping a whole bunch of stuff out, and the stuff's going to go in and stay in. As long as you're not a hammerhead and completely torquing stuff down when this stuff is really, really hot, you're going to be very impressed with what they've changed. Now, also, I do want to note some neat scale stuff on here. Like, say, for example, I don't know if you can see it in the contrast of the video, but there's little tiny molded like rivets onto this. So everything's got a bit of texture. Like if I take a look at these chassis braces and stuff like that, they've got texture. It's so neat. It's more than just a chunk of plastic that just looks like we tried just enough to put it there. No, this stuff is actually pretty neat, and they've done a great job at giving it a little bit more of a look. So you're not going to be so much afraid to, or not so much afraid, but so much willing to do upgrades for more scale looking stuff, because the trucks that comes with is actually pretty set up pretty well. The only thing I can think of is that with all these little molded rivets and stuff that are in there, it's going to be a little bit funner to clean. It'll always look a little bit more dirty, but yeah, who am I kidding? Like, I've ever cleaned a truck before. You guys have seen my stuff. So just screwing these things in here. Now, this whole battery tray setup, of course, as we know, is going to squeeze in nice between the chassis plates or the frame rails, depending on what you want to call them. Almost done with this part here. Just 4 screws is what's going to widen this bad boy up just enough to be able to put it in between the frame rails. And again, like I said, guys, don't just crank them down. Now, also, this is a chassis-mounted servo setup, which is also impressing me because I have never been absolutely successful in setting up a chassis-mounted servo setup before, because every time I did, no matter what manufacturer it was that I was getting it from, I always found that I had some kind of bump steer, which was frustrating to me, and I always took it back out again and always went to the servo on axle setup again. I've always wanted to have a chassis-mounted servo truck. but I get frustrated. And if it doesn't work the way I want it to, I make it all back to standard again. Now, this is where the servo would go. And hold on. A servo! Oh my God. Where'd this thing come from? I'm not going to mount this electronic right now. I don't want to. But basically, I'm going to show you exactly where it would go. So it's basically going to go right like that. Screw it. Let's mount it. Why not, right? I mean, we're already at this point, and, you know, you guys have already stuck around this long to watch what I've been up to. Why not do it for you? So hold on. Just got to get the screws out of this bad boy here. What we're using in this kit, because, I mean, really it's kind of one of those ideas like, hey, prepare for everything. That way the truck will be able to go through whatever kind of torture or torment you put it through. This is going to be a Savox waterproof servo, the SW0231 Metal Gear. When it comes to servos on scale stuff, I always recommend the Metal Gears. It's just going to help your stuff last longer. So consider it, guys. Just deeply, deeply consider the waterproof stuff. People have asked me before, in the past, what are my recommendations on how to waterproof things? And my answer is, don't ask me, man. I don't want to be responsible for wrecking your stuff. So just please don't ask me how to waterproof stuff, because I probably don't do it correctly myself. And I would feel really, really bad if you trusted me with that and I blew up your stuff. So go watch somebody else's video on how to waterproof, or waterproof your stuff by buying it that way. So just kind of slamming this thing in here. Got another one of these little tiny screws. Unos. That one's too long. Guys, this is why I love this little chart here. I don't have my caliper out right now, so all I have to do is just compare it to here. And again, this is why I talk about how awesome it is if you're a first-time builder to kind of get into it in this way. What you're looking at with this, again, different servos are different sizes. Okay, so what we're looking at here is an actual ability to slide the servo adjustment. So see the way it's going to lock down like this? You're going to lock two of them into that, but it's not going to be a universal setup. So this guy on the other end has the ability to slide back and forth and lock it down so that you can actually make sure that you get kind of that universal adjustment so that you can use almost any servo you want to. I say almost because I'm sure there will be some servos that just will not fit. You know, something just will not fit. So I want to cover my own bases and say almost every servo. Just looking for the other part that I need. It's not that part. It's not that part. Okay, I'll find that in 1 second to lock this servo down. I think if I don't find that part quickly, I'm going to move on. Oh, never mind. I know exactly what part it is. It's one of these bad boys right... Where did it just go? Right here. So these are kind of neat because they have a built-in wire management system on this truck, and not just for give me this, the servo wires, but the motor wires, ESC stuff, and possible servo winch, which is kind of neat. So again, we're going to go through here, set that right there. Remember, this is going to go forward, and then I'm going to find those big flat head screws that they've provided. 1, 2, 3. There's a fourth one, I swear. The instruction, there it is, 4. These things have this gigantic flat cap head screw. Focus is not that good when I'm holding it that close, but it's huge. It's absolutely huge. And the whole idea behind that is because servos are fairly adjustable, that you can kind of lock it in there. So again, you're going to cap this sucker off, put it like that, and screw it down. Screw the front side first, because remember, the back side is adjustable. So do the front side first, get it secure, and then do the back side to adjustment. So da, 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 da. So hold it in there nice, get it firm, exactly where you want it to be. It will try to move around a little bit until you get the backside put in as well, but once you get all 4 screws in, it's locked. I hope my elbow's not in your way, guys. So boom, like that. Now on the back side, this is fairly lined up actually, so what I'm going to do is just loosen this. So the adjustability, so grab another screw, put it in here, move that back plate exactly where I want it to be, and get those 2 screws in there. Once I've got this secured down, and I'm very, very happy with the placement of the servo, and then of course the 4 holes that are locking the servo down, then I will lock down the adjustment to make sure that it is exactly in the position that best suits. There you go. Push it up tight against there. If you're using a super, super high torque servo, you're going to want to make sure that that thing is locked down something solid. So be good about it. I can imagine, actually, I would really imagine that possible later, an aftermarket support company is going to build this part in aluminum. I just have this feeling. So I've got that set. And then now when that's set, now you tighten down the set screw on that slide rail, and ta-da. So that's not going anywhere. And of course, wire management. So just pop that in there. Ding, pop that in there. Ding, and there. Look at that. All out of the way, exactly where you want it to be. I'm a fan of that. I love built-in wire management systems. You should see my computer desk. It's a work of art. It's not at all. Okay, so there's that setup. I just got to remember to put the blade on here. So now we're talking frame rails. We're actually getting into the point where frame rails are involved. So of course we're going to flip this bad boy around, and as we talked, this is just going to go on there. You can actually see where the holes all start to line up, and in some of these places there are little leaders, and leaders are basically a little plastic pin that you can pop into place, and you know that that's where it's supposed to be. Now when you originally screwed this stuff together, if any of those parts just don't seem to fit correctly, just maybe unscrew something to loosen it off. Boom, there we go. Oh, that fit better than I actually hoped it would. So boom, like that. And then you can get it all set up to fit correctly. Now, I do know that I saw a couple of these super small, where they go, super small screws in here. There's my little shorty guy. That is going to go into this little part. Now, once you start putting the frame rail together, you get a couple screws in, you're pretty set. Because what I used to do, and I think I'll probably do with this truck too, is do one side, and make sure everything is exactly where I want it to be for one side, and then go ahead to the second side and make it all work exactly how I want it to. That way everything is free moving enough, and then you eventually press it all in. There we go. There's the one. Get that like that, and then we're talking a little bit longer screws. This is also where we're starting to put in cool little things like our new super awesome upgraded shock towers. It's kind of neat, eh? Another part that I just keep saying it, I'm a big fan. So unscrew that, or unknock that off. Now, look at this. Stuff that's notching around frames. Like, that's super neat. They're really, really starting to make upgrades. So, because remember, this is where the steering system's going to connect in. And now, because we're locking this thing in and the wires are all retained nice and neatly, you're not worrying about other things kind of going awry and snagging onto things that they're really, really not supposed to. So just look through here. Find your correct length of your countersunk screws. In previous kits, when I first started building, I would say things like, yeah, whatever, just throw in whatever screw it fits. It didn't do any damage. But then later on, when you're looking for the exact size screw that you really needed, oops, you buried it into something, a half hour ago, and now you've got to go and undo a bunch of stuff. This guy here, with the previous SCX10 kit, I did feel that right from day one, I think that was a part that you should probably upgrade. What I mean is the shock hoops. Made it very flimsy, where you connected it to the truck. If you put enough pressure on the body posts, it would actually break. These things, hardly. These are strong, like super strong. So I don't, again, consider it. I don't know if you would have to upgrade these things. Some people will want to, but I'm telling you, with this SCX10 2, I may change my opinion after I run it for a while, but today, I don't feel like there's a bunch of stuff that you're going to have to upgrade at any quick amount of time. I think that this stuff's all very reasonable at how it goes together, except for maybe the bumpers. Look at this. Like, it's like you could land an airplane on here. That's all I got for you. So this guy here, pop it off. Slam this sucker back into the chassis. Oh, I love the detail on this stuff. Like, again, all little detailed bits to make it look super cool, super scale stuff. It's just good work, guys. Just keep saying that. So there's the correct screw. And I will comment again. I commented a long time ago about it, but make sure you're doing this with a good set of tools. You don't want to strip any screws out from the beginning. I'm using these MIPs, and they are super solid. Super solid. Great work with the steel that they use for these things. When you're screwing this one in, guys, just make sure that leer hole is done correctly. You don't want to crank the screw down and not have that thing in there. And there we go. That is correct right there. And finish screwing it down. Ta-da. Done. So that's in there like that. Even these bumper mounts, the plastic is significantly improved over previous years, previous models. So 1, 2, 3, 4 is all the screws it was calling for that one. And now we're talking about, see, look, the instructions, now we're talking about turning this into a truck. Things are starting to get just a little bit real. So just kind of get the servo out of the way. Now we're going into, where did it go? That chassis brace for the front center. Whoa, whoa. Throwing stuff, guys. There we go. Chassis brace for front center. It's almost like a K-member in a car. It's actually fairly the same shape. Now we're going to slap this sucker in right like so. Ta-da. That's where it's going to go for that. Now we're also talking about, where did it go? There it is. Radio box. It's actually a part of the boat side. How neat is that? So the boat side's going to go in. We're talking about a bit of a longer screw here. This thing is going to be 73. Perfect. Going to be this one. Right. Nice dome head screw. .6. This is a very odd side screw. Very odd size. Wow. Find the right driver for it. This is the only thing in the whole kit, I think, so far that needed a 1.5. So here we go in there. Into the chassis. Into the brace. Flip that bad boy over. And there it goes. Make sure you select the right screw on that one. We're talking a lot of 3M screws on this whole kit. This one's a 2M, or an M2, sorry. Make sure you're using the correct one, otherwise you will just completely hog out the whole system and just 100% annihilate what you're trying to do. Also make sure you put it on the correct direction. So I'm just going to flip this back around and pretend like that never happened. There you go. So in there, even though that's an M2, be very careful because that will try to strip. You know, it's an M2, you're really just using this as a brace to start putting stuff together, and you're starting to put a lot of screws into this thing. Again, we're talking about a ton of screws all over the place right now because everything is really starting to go together very, very quickly. And in reality, and I say very quickly, I mean that, in reality, stuff is going to start to fit together and you're going to start to make a lot of sense as to where things were going in the first place. So again, use the correct screw. Oh, go back to the 2mm. I can see already that with the amount of screws that are in this truck, it's going to be a very rigid system, but when if you have to make any trail repairs on some of the parts on this truck, it may be a little bit more than what you were originally expecting. You see here, another screw goes over the top of this. Perfect. Just like so. So now we're talking like battery tray, fits to boat side, fits to chassis, fits to K-member, fits to, and everything all of a sudden just starts to attach itself to itself for the most part. So bang, we're sitting in like this, and eventually this little guy here is going to run around and come into here. So actually, sorry, no, it does have a channel under here that, if you did it correctly, watch. Unscrew that little guy again. That little 2, that M2. Take it all the way out. I'm not taking it all the way out right now because I'm afraid I'm going to lose it. It's so small. Done. Out. And then lift this bad boy up and run your servo wire under here. Completely hidden across the chassis underneath the radio box. So it goes under and back over. How cool is that? Ta-da. Just like that. Check that out. It goes in there, under, completely pressed in between here and here, completely safe. Not affected by anything. That I will call a win. One of my servos from the past, when I was running servo on Axial, had a bit of a concern and caught a burr and cut open the plastic and shorted my servo. With this, ain't gonna happen. So ta-da, and look at that, all hidden and then just slips inside the box like that. That is amazing. Somebody thought of that, guys. So now we're going into mounting this gigantic, I'll take these ends back off here, transmission into the center. Spin it around this way, and that's going to go here and here. Oh, perfect. It fits in perfect, like perfectly snug, like it's meant to be there. I know it is. It's got those little holes to lead it into its position. So bang, just like that. Beautiful. Got to find the screws. So we're talking 15, this bad boy here. Perfect, and perfect. So 1, just like that. Nice and snug. Remember, don't crank them down too much. And then the other one as well. Whoops, missed the hole. Right there. Now, the purpose of these boat sides, which I love, is to make sure that a bunch of sticks don't jam up in through. It's also going to help protect the sides of the body. Big fan, again. Ta-da. And ta-da. So just like that. So you see how that's set up now? Now everything's on there like that. Now we're talking about a part. I actually wondered what these were for earlier. They were just kind of there, and I wasn't sure what it was going to do, but it actually goes into the backside to put the rest of the transmission on, and also make sure that, let me see, it's a big long one. Puts another little cover on one of the holes. So ta-da. Screw that thing in, and adds kind of a little bit more effect to it. And again, this is more the support where, because remember, the motor is going to be on here, a lot of extra weight. Now this is starting to attach the front of the transmission directly to the chassis rail. So again, this is going to take a lot of the weight on the kit and make sure that that transmission's not susceptible in any way. Now I'm just looking for the back. Here's one of the rear shock towers. We will use this one. And this is also what I'm looking for here. So like this and this. 1, 2. And it goes. Now, this is where you have to pay attention to what your axle length is, or what your hole geometry is going to be set up as. The reason why I say that is because in these back holes, you see all these multiple hole sections here. This is where you can actually adjust the length of your wheelbase, as you can put the suspension in different places and move it forward or move it backward. If you're running the long wheelbase, like what will be run on this truck, you need to move it to the furthest one back and then slam the screw into that part. So in here, one, into here two, just like that. And this page is almost done. So I've got that secured in really nice on the back end. And then the last part is the rear bumper mount. And tighten it nice and snug, front and back. And the rear bumper mount, again, still looking nice to scale like the front one is. Just slap that one back in. Remember, it's got those leader holes. And see how far back this thing goes? Wow, this thing is expecting that gigantic bumper to hang off the back quite far. So 115, which is the right screw. Wow, this thing is huge. With every step I build this kit, I am more impressed with what they've done with it. The quality of the plastics is much better. Much, much better. I have no doubt that some people are going to find some upgrades for this truck, but I'm not 100% sure how much of it actually needs. I really don't know. So looking through the instructions, the next steps are to go through and to actually do the other frame rail, but I don't need to go through and show you guys how every single one of those screws go in. So I'm just going to repeat it on the other side. So give me a second, dudes. Just like that, the other frame, not just like that, guys. That took a while to get all those things lined up, get all those screws put in. Just make sure that when you're putting it all together, just go along and make sure everything is clicked in correctly, make sure everything is going exactly where it's supposed to go. Don't force it. If it's not going to go, it's not going to go. So don't crush it trying to get it in there. Just do it gentle and make it work correctly. Now, as a part of this step, it also includes mounting the axles and putting on the links. But this video has gotten quite long already, so I'm going to break the video in half and do a second video where we finally mount the axles, put in the links. That way we can go through and kind of get all that done. I know it's really just a matter of like, hey, here's one, and I'll do the rest off camera, and there's another, and I'll do the rest off camera. But guys, let's just call this one done and make a second video. So the build part, I want you to leave a comment down below what you think is going on so far. Are you happy with what Axial's done with it? If you have any immediate questions, I'll do my best to answer. And of course, click on the like, the subscribe, and share this throughout your community. Thanks, guys.